Right. So what do we want to do to this one? Black and white with a bit of colour. Do we need to do anything before that? That's what I was meaning. Any areas you want to lighten, darken? Talk to me. Who's your picture? Go on. Well, we'll have a look at what areas do we need to brighten and darken first, should we? So I'll show you how I dodge and burn on mine, because I don't do it your conventional way. Right, dodging and burning came from the days of being in the dark room. So dodging was when you were enlarging your picture, it would be projected from your enlarger head down onto a piece of paper. And dodging was where you would lighten a specific area. And the way you would do it is you would place your hands or a piece of paper or something, and you would dodge areas of your image that were being projected down. A bit like creating your silly dog thing in, yeah? So you would dodge areas with your hands, and burning is the opposite. You would hold all the image back apart from a specific area, and you would make darker in the enlargement. So that's where dodging and burning come from, and unfortunately, yeah, it's lightening and darkening, but Photoshop uses the original or traditional photographic terms for it, which is dodging and burning. So dodging is making things lighter, burning is making things darker. There is a dodge and burn tool, but I don't use them. I don't know what they're like nowadays, but when they first came in, one of the earlier versions of Photoshop, they were a bit naff. So the way I do it is I create a duplicate of the layer and set the blending mode to a specific blending mode, and then use that to either darken or lighten specific areas. Does that make that totally confused you or not? No? Right, so what I'll do is I'll duplicate the background layer by clicking on it and dragging it down to the new layer icon. By doing that, it creates a duplicate. And I'll duplicate it again to give me 3 copies of the... I'll just drag that down. So I've got 3 copies of the background layer, all the same. So I'll select the top one and I'll rename it, because I rename all my layers so that I know what's on them. Never. I never do. So the top layer will be called Dodge, and the middle layer I'll call Burn. Yeah? So the top layer is dodging, which is lightening, right? So if you look in the blending modes, and in them blending modes there is a specific, they're grouped into specific sort of actions, if you want, to use a better word, yeah? So the top one is darken, then we've got multiply, colour burn, light, linear burn and darker colour. So because the top one's darken, you know that group, yeah, are all to do with darkening your picture. So I want dodge, which is lightened, isn't it? So lighten is the next group, and it's got lighten screen, colour dodge, linear dodge, and lighter colour. Which actually, it says dodge and burn in the text, doesn't it, in the groups? I never realised that, but it does, doesn't it? So the one you want to use for dodging the image is the screen one. So if you click on screen, that will brighten the image, yeah, that layer. The layer underneath we want to use to darken the image, don't we? So we've got to set that one to multiply, which is darkening the image. Now, in theory, they should cancel each other out, shouldn't they? I've never done it like this. I always had the layer mask stuff before this, but if yeah, they pretty much, well, near enough. They near enough cancel each other out. But what we're going to do is we're going to add a black layer mask to both of them layers. Yeah, what does a black layer mask do? No, black hides the layer. So I'm going to hide both of those layers. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key and I'm going to press Add New Layer Mask. By holding down the Alt key when you add a layer mask, it creates it in black rather than white. I always think of the Alt as the alternative. Well, if not using an Alt gives you a white mask, then the alternative, Alt, is to give it a black mask, isn't it? So if I create a black mask on both of those layers, oh, sorry, I just clicked the wrong thing. So now we've got a dodge and a burn layer, although you can't read the writing on them now, can you? I've got a dodge layer and a burn layer, both doing nothing at the moment because they both got black masks on them, haven't they? Right, so tell me what area you want dodging or burning, and we'll start and do it. So you want to darken the reflection. This area here, you want to darken. So we've got to darken this area down here. I wouldn't have thought it was, but we'll go with it. So we'll use a white brush, and I'll set the opacity to something like 20%, and we'll go to darken this area along here. Yeah? So we're on the burn layer with a white brush, so that's got to burn in this area along here. And I'm doing several strokes over it because I'm using it at 20%, so I can build it up, yeah? It has actually, it's brought the reflections out, yeah. Yeah. So we've burned that area in. So if I turn the burn layer off, there you can see what burning we've done. What other burning could we do? What about these really bright highlights up here? We could try burning them in as well. I don't know how much detail we'll get in them. Not a lot by the looks of things, because I think they are burnt out completely, aren't they? Yeah, we're bringing a bit of burning in the sky, aren't we? Right, so where do we want to dodge? Where do we want to lighten? The hill. So if we go onto the dodge layer, or the dodge layer mask, and we'll go to lighten the hill, lighten the front of all the cabins, possibly. Right, so we'll start with the hill. We'll work our way over the hill, brightening it up a bit. Like I say, it'll take a few passes probably. But we've brightened that hill a little bit there, haven't we? And we've got to brighten the cabins all the way along the front, so we'll just run it along the front a few times. Until we've brightened them. So this is how I do my dodging and burning. I use 2 layers, one in multiply and one in screen. Yes, but I've also done it non-destructively. So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? The file size is a lot bigger, but I've done it non-destructively, so if I mess up, I can always go back to it another day. Yeah. Yeah. And to not do a screen recording while you try to edit, as I've just realised I was doing before. Right, so that's the dodging and burning. We'll go to the original and we'll see what the difference is. Original, new one. Yeah? You happy with that? Yeah. So what we've got to do there, we've got to convert it to black and white, weren't we? Right. So we don't want to lose those 2 layers, do we? So we've got to create a new adjustment layer at the top of the layer stack. Now adjustment layers can be things like curves, saturation, etc., etc. You could do a saturation one and just reduce the saturation to 0, and by doing that you would create a black and white image, wouldn't you? But Photoshop has a better adjustment layer for doing black and whites, and it's specifically for doing black and white. So if you hit the new adjustment layer, there's one called black and white. So if you click on it, it gives you another flyout. My flyouts automatically don't fly out. No, mine are hidden at the bottom. So that's the flyout that you would get, something like that, right? So that's showing you your different colour channels and how they are combined to create your image. Let's see if I can.
Would you run through the presets on that first?
No, I never use any presets.
Yeah.
It has a lot of presets in the top, yeah. So what I would look at is what areas I want to increase or decrease the colours in. Now I know a lot of these have got colours in the front, haven't they? So we could select one of those colours and brighten it or darken it to give you a bit more contrast in those sheds along the front. So if we take the red slider and drag the red slider, can you see automatically the red ones have gone really dark, haven't they? Almost black there. Or we could make the red ones almost white. So whatever's red in that image or contains shades of red, we can adjust how bright it is in the image. So it's a bit like in the old days when you used to put filters in front of your lens when you were shooting in black and white. Back in the
Most of those presets within that,
yeah,
that one are basically like
yeah. The presets will automatically set them for you. So for I don't know what they are in here. So we've got blue filters, dark green filters, etc., infrared and all that. But you can do it manually by sliding the slider. You can also take the hand tool and you can click and drag on an area within the image. And as soon as you click, it will select the slider that corresponds with the colour that you click on. So if I can't remember, for example, this building, I can't remember what colour it was, so I don't know which slider to move. But if I click on it, it's automatically saying, oh, it was the red one, and it's chose the red one for me. So let's choose the one next to that building. So let's darken the red one. What's the one next to it? I can't remember what colour that was. But if I click on it, yeah, it was yellow. It's automatically selected yellow. Yeah? So it selects the colour that corresponds to where you click. Now the sky up here, in that area where it's at now, that would have been blue. So if I click on there, it's automatically selected blue, which means I can now darken the blue areas, which includes any of the colour in the sky. Yeah? So we've done our black and white conversion, and we've played around with the amount of each colour that's in the conversion. Does that make sense? So we can make a red that was in the original colour picture come out as a high tone or a low tone, whichever we want it to be. And the same with the blues, yellows, greens, etc. Yes, because the reflection is red, it's obviously darkened the reflection as well. So let's go back to our layers. We can see that we've automatically got an adjustment, a layer mask with our adjustment layer. So we can, on the layer mask, bring some colour back into this image. So if we wanted, for example, if I just click on my brush tool, if we wanted to bring some colour back into one of these buildings, what colour would we paint in on our layer mask? Black to hide. Black will hide whatever's on that layer. Now that layer is a black and white adjustment, isn't it? So it's got to hide the black and white adjustment and show what the original colour was. So if we zoom in and choose a building, we'll go with that building there. Don't know what colour it was originally. I'll take a small brush with black. I'll put my flow back up, seeing as it's at 21% at the moment. I never adjust my flow, by the way. I think you can set. I use a Wacom tablet. I think you can use the flow with them quite well. Not that I ever have done. So we'll choose a building, and we'll start and paint it back in. Now I'm using full opacity, or opacity, so it's at 100%, and so the colour will come back straight away. Yeah, we could, if we wanted to, bring it gradually back by using a lower opacity on our brush. I've actually gone over a little bit there because that one next to it must have been blue, mustn't it? So because I've gone over it, if I reverse the colours that I'm painting in from black back to white, because I've gone over the edge, I can paint that adjustment back in there, can't I?
I tend to use the selection tool, go around it, that will protect it.
Yeah, you could do.
Just be like doing anything like more like you.
Yeah. So we can selectively bring the colours back into these areas. So that one we brought in at full. Let's choose another one. What about this one here? Let's bring this one back, but bring it back as a more subtle colour. Sorry, it was 71% I was working at there, wasn't it? So if I bring it down to about 30% and paint over this one, wrong one, wrong colour. Yeah, try black again. There. So we can gradually bring back a colour. So I'm painting over that a few times with like 28% opacity. So it's gradually bringing the colour back. So you can create some like subtle black and white with a little hint of colour sort of conversions, can't you? Let's bring a bit of colour back into these yellow ones up here. Yeah. And in about 10 years' time, all them brides will hate that picture. Because it'll have gone out of fashion by then. But yeah. So you can bring a bit of colour back in. Yeah. So we could go around them all, or we could just do the full lot in one go. True. Good point. So we need to go down and do our reflection. So we just go down the bottom and do the same over the reflection to bring a bit of colour back into that. Yeah. I'm doing this far too quick obviously, but you'll get the idea. So we'll bring a bit of colour back into the reflection. Obviously the colour in the reflection isn't going to be as strong anyway, is it? Because it's a reflection. Alright. Anything else we can do with that? I'm just trying to show you different techniques rather than a finished picture. A different sharpening technique. Which one would you like? Unsharp mask. I've always used unsharp mask, but it's not the latest one. The latest one's that smart sharpen, isn't it? Right, so we're going to apply some unsharp mask to this, are we? I'm going to do it the same way as I did the high pass one. I'm going to create a copy at the top, apply the unsharp mask to that, and then we can see, if we want to, how we can selectively sharpen, because somebody did mention selectively sharpening before, didn't they? So if we create a copy at the top by holding down the Alt key, clicking, dragging down to merge visible and releasing, it will create a new layer at the top, which is a composite of everything that's below it placed on that one layer at the top. So it does nothing at the moment. Yeah, I can turn it on and off and it does now. But what we're going to do is we've got to sharpen that layer by going to filter. Oh, no we're not. Turn it back on again. Filter, sharpen, unsharp mask. So the settings on unsharp mask are, you always preview it at 100% when you're sharpening, by the way. So the amount, which is a percentage, the radius and the threshold. The radius looks at the difference, or the area to either side of the difference in contrast. Yeah. So a lower setting doesn't sharpen so much either side of an area of contrast. So the higher that setting, the more sharpening you'll get, but the more obvious the sharpening will be. And the amount, obviously, the higher you put it, the more pronounced the sharpening will be. So if we sharpen to say, I'll overdo it, and then we'll reduce it using opacity like we did before. So if I over sharpen it, I'll set it to 100 and whatever it is, and I'll set this reasonably high. I'll put it to about 3, a radius of 3 pixels, and click OK to that. In a minute, it will sharpen. Did it jump on there? Right, so if I turn the front image off, the top off, on and off, that's with no sharpening. That's with the sharpening, yeah? So it's maybe a bit too much, but for this, I'll leave it quite high at the moment, because now we can see where we're sharpening and where we're not sharpening. So where do we want to sharpen and where do we not want to sharpen? Zoom back out. Give me some areas you want sharpened, areas that you don't necessarily need sharp. No. Yeah. And the buildings themselves. Yeah, so the facings of the building we want sharpening, and maybe the reflection we want sharpening, and the rest of it doesn't really need it. So if we add a layer mask to that layer, and we add it as black by holding down the Alt key, that will hide that sharpening, won't it? Yeah. So I've created the layer mask in black. So now there's no sharpening. So now all I need to do is take a brush with white. I'm changing my background and foreground colours from black to white, by the way, by hitting the X key. If you hit the X key, it'll swap whatever your foreground and background colours are. I only ever use black and white because I don't really paint in colours any times. So I know every time if I hit my X key, it'll change from black to white or vice versa. So I've now got white, and I'm going to increase my brush size with the square bracket keys so that I can then run this brush across the front of those buildings, and in doing so should add some sharpening. So I'm going to set it to 100% so that we get all the sharpening put on them buildings, and I'm just going to drag it right across the front. Can you see how as it's dragging even? Yeah, it's sharpening, isn't it? Right now, so if I turn that on and off now, you should see the front of the buildings is sharpened, but the rest of the image isn't. So the other place we wanted to sharpen was along the front here. So I'll drag across there. And you see we've sharpened the reflection. Yeah? So that's selectively sharpened the areas that we want to sharpen. Now if it's still too much of a sharpen, I overdid the sharpening, didn't I? I made it quite, so if we zoom in you can see that actually it doesn't look bad on there, but on here again it looks really over sharpened. So what we can do is we can reduce the opacity of the sharpening layer. So although it's selectively sharpening, we can reduce how much of an effect that selection or that selective area is sharpened. So we can reduce the opacity down a little bit and just sharpen the areas that we want to the right amount that we want it to be sharpened to. Yeah? So we go back to the original and see what it's like. So we've got a before and an after. Depends what you're looking for. Obviously it's a bit weird, that conversion and everything, but we could keep it as black and white and add the colour to all the buildings if you wanted to. And because we've done everything on layers, nothing on this image is destroyed. Yeah. So I could go back to the layer that does the black and white conversion, and I could say, well, really, I want them all in colour, all the buildings in colour. So if I run along the front of them buildings, I can bring them all back in colour, yeah, and leave the rest of it in black and white. And obviously, yeah, the reflection needs doing as well, doesn't it? There's somebody keeps reminding me. There we go. There. So you can select. It's nothing's destroyed in this image. It's all done on separate layers. Yeah. Yeah. That's the beauty of working in layers. You can go back to it. I'll edit late at night, and my eyes get tired late at night, as everybody else's do. And if I edit something, I think, oh, it looks brilliant, and then look at it the next day, it can look terrible. You know, it could be too bright or too dark, or because you're staring at a screen all the time, your eyes become accustomed to it. So if you look at it the next day, if you've created it in layers, it doesn't matter because you can go back and adjust it to suit. What colour do you want me to change? Right. This one here. Did you say can't? Did you actually say can't you do it? Right. Challenge on. I've even lifted my glasses up for this one. It must be serious. I'm not going to tell you how I'm doing it. I'm just going to do it. I'll tell you how I did it afterwards if you want. How about that? I've got to see if it works before I tell you how I'm doing it. I'm not daft. What colour did you want it? Yeah, I know. I just realised that now. Try again. Purple, orange, green. Yeah, I can. Right, do you want me to tell you how I did it? No. The merge lot up at the top. I hold down the Alt key, hit the fly out for the by the layers palette, and it comes up as merge visible at the bottom. I won't do it again because oh yeah, I forgot to do the reflection, haven't I? You could really confuse people by having the reflections completely different colours if you wanted. Right, I'll tell you how I did it now. So, right, so what I did was, don't click that. I created an adjustment layer, which was a hue and saturation layer. Then I'll zoom in quite close. Yeah, I did a selection, but normally I'd just paint around it with a brush. Zoom in quite close. Make a selection around the area that you want to adjust. And then I did it the wrong here, didn't I? Because I didn't invert it. But I then filled that with black. So if I go, because it's on an adjustment layer, it automatically adds a layer mask. So I'm going to fill that part of the layer mask in black. Yeah?
There's no in that, C-select, like with our selection there, whereby that you can either expand it, contract it, feather it. If you're going to go for something with fine detail, like I say, you're selecting out the price.
So if you go to select, you can go to either modify, where you can modify the border, smooth it, expand it, blah, 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 or refine edge. Refine edge is the new version of a lot of the... so you can modify this edge, and in modifying it, you can smooth the edge, you can feather it, etc, etc. I never use it, which is why I'm going to flick over it really quick. But you can modify the edge of your selection. Yeah, I'll show you how I would have done it. So, no, not at the moment. I'll show you how I would have modified it. So if I make the selection too big, yeah, and I'll show you how I would do it in a minute. So once I've done that, I would go to Edit, Fill, and I'll fill it with black. Yeah. So that's filled that square with black on the layer. On the adjustment layer mask. Now what I did was wrong because I didn't invert it at that point, so I'll show you me doing it wrong and then I'll invert it and do it right. So if you deselect that, which is select and deselect or Control and D, then what I did was I double clicked on the icon for the layer adjustment layer, and that brings up the options for that adjustment layer. And because it's a hue and saturation, what I basically did was scrub the hue slider from left to right until I found a green. But when I first did it, I did it wrong because I hadn't inverted my selection. So what I've actually done is protect that blue door when really I should have protected the rest of the picture. So what happened was when I adjusted it, every other colour in the flipping picture changed apart from the blue door. So at that point I realised, so I'll set that back to 0. So what I did was I went to the layers palette, clicked on the mask for the adjustment layer and inverted it with my keyboard shortcut. So now it's all black apart from the door, which is white. And as such, the adjustment will now apply to the door. Right, so going back to our adjustment layer. Oh, sorry. Now we can adjust the hue to whatever colour we want. So we'll go with our green. But can you see now, because I made a really rough selection, it's gone onto this red door here. So what I would do, and this is the simplest way I would do it, is just select my brush on the layer, adjustment layer mask, and just paint in black on the areas that I didn't want adjusting. Yeah. So it's as simple as that, because it's an easy shape to adjust. But like she was saying, on weird shapes you might want to use something different. Right, let's zoom back out again. What else do we want to do? Anything? Or are we? Mind you, it's coming up for 9:30 anyway, isn't it? So that's adjusting that blue dot to green. That's our lot.